All right, welcome everybody to the January Homes for All Coalition Mindy meeting. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm just going to go through the agenda. We just did our check-ins, and then we're going to premiere Shane Shepard's video that he produced for KEPRA for the Indianapolis CLT. It's about 5 minutes, so it's not too long. So we'll just get some like reactions to what y'all think about it. And then we'll go into a year in review. So we have so many of y'all have been involved in the CLT, starting the CLT over the last year. So we'd love to get some of y'all's highlights and reflections, lessons learned. Then we will look at what's to come in 2024. Sound good? All right.
Yes.
So I am going to go ahead and share my screen and just holler if you have a hard time hearing or can't hear it or something.
Okay.
Okay, can y'all see and hear that?
What is a community land trust? Community land trusts are nonprofit community-based organizations tasked with holding land permanently in trust for the benefit of the people in the community. CLT land can be used for many types of development, including commercial and agricultural uses, but CLTs are primarily used to ensure long-term housing affordability. CLTs are governed by a board of directors made up of housing residents, community representatives, and members of the general public. To hear more about the Community Land Trust, stay tuned to hear some of our KEPRA leaders speak about the Community Land Trust and the benefits thereof.
What community means to me is the environment you create for yourself through your relationships that allow you to be. It's the shallow lake out by your house that you can let your kids go jump in and play in. Community is that space where you know that you're not alone. The most wonderful thing about Community Land Trust is you are a community. In a Community Land Trust, you own the house. The land is held in collective. Everyone puts in a little for their own home, which builds, and you're able to not only help fund what you need, but what others need.
One of the things that make me a real big advocate for CLTs is I remember being a 20-year-old with my first daughter born and getting our first apartment and 500 square feet and paying rent and really not seeing a future in terms of how that was going to benefit me long term. But the CLT offers is not only do you get affordability because the CLT looks at your individual household income. When you get an apartment or you get a house that you want to rent, basically as long as you can afford to make the rental payment, the landlord really doesn't have too many issues. But with the CLT, they're looking much deeper into your financial profile. For example, they not only want you to be able to afford the monthly payment, but they want you to be able to include your utilities, your taxes, your principal, your interest, your insurance, and into a percentage of your total income that really makes it more affordable for you so that you can have discretionary income to also do something that's just as important. It's one of the ways that the CLT really separates itself because you're trying to make sure that people are living in somewhere safe and secure, but it's affordable, but it's also opening up and making sure that people aren't house poor, either from buying a home or from renting a home, where basically we define house poor as anyone who's paying more than 30% of their income just for basic living necessities, which is primarily rent or mortgage.
So you have a partner in the homeowner process. It's not just like me on my own, that's it. I have somebody that cares about my family dynamics, what it is we need, and able to provide an alternative to just market rate. And dealing with the banks, you deal with lenders that care about the community, care about the social capital and human capital of a family, a person, opposed to me going at it on my own. I like that model that you have support from community, you have the support of people that are invested in your home ownership being a success.
Well, for me and anybody else who owns a house, building wealth is different from policies that allow real estate people to come in and buy up houses for little and then rent them for much. That's a policy issue. And so you feel like if you do vote, things don't change. Well, if you don't vote, they really don't change in your favor. As anyone knows who owns a house, not be able to pay the taxes, you done for. The state comes and gets your house. And so the idea of home ownership then becomes a collection of people who own the land together, but the house belongs to you. I'm not in it by myself. I'm not going down by myself. I have community to make sure that I'm good so that the community can be strong and we all can be good.
As the community land trust movement gains momentum in Indianapolis, it is the perfect time to explore opportunities for involvement. For detailed information on how you can contribute to a community land trust, visit indycot.org. Thanks for watching.
Okay, let's just everyone who can unmute and let's give Shane a round of applause.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll open it up to reactions. What y'all think? And also we had Melita Carter join. Hey, Melita, how you doing?
Hey, Alvin. Hi, everyone.
Good. Good to hear your voice.
It's good to be heard and to be seen among the greats,
All
doing
right.
great work. So it's good to see y'all. Happy New Year.
Awesome.
Happy
Good
New
deal.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay. And the Melita, the check-in tonight was how you feeling 1 to 10? And if your mood were a color, what color would it be? And then one thing you're looking forward to in 2024.
Oh, y'all got me on the check-in.
Of course.
How am I feeling from 1 to 10? I'm feeling about, I would say about a 5. If I was a color, I would be purple. And if what was the last question? Oh, what am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to peace in 2024. For myself, like just internal work. Looking forward to triumphs and milestones achieved. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank y'all. I'm checked in.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Melita. Okay, well, we already got some comments from Jim. Great job, Shane. A terrific video explanation of a CLT. Anyone else want to pop in?
It was a great job as well. I like I don't want to say the simpleness of it, but it was in language more that it can grasp more people within the community. You broke down the policy, how the policies are affecting housing affordability. Mrs. Fair is awesome with her explanation and her input. Nicholas put it in simple terms of house poor. You know, you might be able to afford to buy this house, but can you afford to keep the lights on? Can you keep food on the table? So I thought that was an awesome job.
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
like the invitation. I like the invitation. The invitation to
At the
know
end.
more.
Yeah.
And the way, like LaShonda said, the way that Miss Fair and the gentleman, who I don't know his name, but how they kind of lined up the whole idea that, oh, yes, and the great gal with her beautiful glasses. I love her glasses. That said, you know, she's not going down by herself. She's not going up by herself. You know, we're all in it together. So I really like the focus of all those things. The invitation, come learn more. And I think that the video was very inviting. Thank you, Shane, for your work.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I think the way that I came at the video was coming from a perspective of somebody that didn't have much knowledge about the CLT, because I initially didn't know about the CLT. So Alvin gave me, a decent amount of research and kind of told me what he was looking to convey. So it was kind of from the perspective, like I said, from just not knowing about the CLT, trying to get people to understand it from, simple terms. And that's pretty much what we was going for. So I appreciate you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say too, I really, really like the style. Just I felt like the kind of retro groove to it made it like appealing to new people for a retro thing, and like, oh yeah, it's harkening back to tradition in a lot of ways, right? And then I just also wanted to comment on the editing. Like, as somebody, I had to record myself a little bit for politics for the first time in my life. It didn't realize how many takes it takes or how hard it is to splice all the video and sound to get it to sound like a human being and still, like cut out all the ums and ahs and all that stuff.
No
So
doubt.
really well done. It didn't, it took me right into it. Really amazing work.
I appreciate that. You guys are making me feel pretty good.
Yeah, great work, Shane. Especially like, and what he said was, I just sent him, hey, here's like a bunch of stuff. Good luck. Like, make something that makes sense. Like, so hats off to you, Shane. All right. So I will go ahead and we will transfer. Yeah, and it will be available to the public. So we're gonna post it. Go ahead and post it on our YouTube channel shortly. So that's if you search Kepler Institute on YouTube, you can find our channel that has our videos on it.
Will it be on the CLT webpage?
Yes, it will. And also, it did mention that indyclt.org. So we do have a website in progress, though there's no website up yet. So that will be something that's coming soon. Awesome. So one thing that I wanted to share, so we'll go into a reflection on 2023, and we had so many people who were involved in the CLT over the year. So I will go ahead and start by kicking it to some of the folks who are on the CLT team or on the CLT advisory board to just share maybe in like 1 minute or 2 minutes, what were some of your highlights from 2023 in terms of the lessons and some of the things that we milestones and lessons. So I'll open it up and I'll fill in the holes at the end in mine. Have someone who's brave. Let's start with Frank. You're brave, Frank. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah. So, again, this is my kind of first involvement with mortgages, home loans, financial credit loans, and things like that. So, I've really learned a lot about it and the importance of affordability. What is housing affordability for our particular community? And so, I just learned a lot. Again, my mom was a real estate agent, so I'm familiar with pushing houses and selling houses, but actually getting down to the nitty gritty of what it means to be have an ownership position and place some monetary value on a house is kind of what I've learned. How important it is. I mean, we're in the wealth creation business. I would assume that's one of our kind of basic function of actually getting into housing, having affordable housing so you can build wealth from there. And I kind of learned somewhat of that process. Again, I've been kind of naive to the whole area, truthfully. And it's certainly an important topic for this area. I'm not 100%, I'm still a little confused about the whole structure of the organization as a whole, of where does the land trust fit into all the other things that are going on, right? So that's kind of an area I'm looking at, trying to get a little more understanding. There are other organizations out there, for instance, the National Realtors Association. I'm not sure, if we're connected with that organization, because I know they have some training about new home ownerships that are ongoing. So, I kind of want to build some collaboration within the organization from my standpoint.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. LaShonda or Stephanie, or either you want to add in?
Yeah, I can add in. Let's see. Um, kind of like Frank, I learned a lot. I knew some things coming into like home purchasing because I plan on buying a home, have yet to buy a home. So just coming into this space helped me to understand all the systemic issues around buying a home. Well, for me as a Black woman, um, I didn't really get it prior to coming into the space. Now I get it. Um, we had to come up with a logo for the land trust. And I think I shared this with you, Al. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna submit my logo. My logo was very plain. It just says be the change. And when I submitted my logo, and not saying that I was playing around with, I wanted to give that subliminal message. No matter what you build here, it has to be different from what's been happening and building as in the past. And I read your rental home possible buying to buy to ownership. I said, now that's different. That's what I was looking for. So I learned that you can, if you come together, you hammer out those issues, you can get people into affordable home ownership, or just a home period that's affordable, where they're not choosing to, like, I'm not going to pay my rent because I need to buy food. I need to pay the car note, but I'm not going to pay my rent. So give you the families a little leeway to actually live a better quality of life. Yep, I think that's about it.
Thanks, LaShonda. Appreciate you. Okay, Stephanie, you want to share? Or Miss Pambana? And then also we'll open up to Jim too.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. It has been a very intensive learning process, in the best and worst ways. No, but I feel like it's not just been a matter of learning about CLT, it's been adjacent issues as well. So just really getting quite a lot of education around co-ops and other programs that are out there for first-time homeowners and the different challenges that can come with those pros and cons. Getting to actually see some legislative advocacy and process and learning more about how a bill gets filed and what that process looks like. And it's been interesting through all of this. Something that has risen to the top for me, and I think is really central to Kepra, is the importance of relationships and using your connections, helping to, as we bring people in like Shane, which is great, but then I get a call from a policy manager of like, hey, do you guys have anybody in this area that might be willing to talk to a legislator? All comes back to that social capital and those relationships, and that's been really neat to see. So real exciting year for me, and I'm so grateful to be part of this space.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, Jim or Miss Pambana want to share?
Well, I'll share. And so for me, I guess in terms of reflection for 2023 is that, it was the year, I guess, if you use the agricultural metaphor of the seed sprouting and beginning to push through the ground, because we started working on the CLT in 2018, and I'm like, wow, 5 years. But in 2024, like, it got its name, it started working on its bylaws, it pulled together the advisory committee. So to me, that was the plant coming forth. And so now we'll get to see all the kinds of fruit and things that it'll bear. And it's not just limited, it can be housing, it can be business, it can be agriculture. So and Alvin stepped forth to say, okay, I'll take it to this next level. So my hat's off to him. But 2023 was really the kind of more formalizing it and seeing it come into actual being, I guess you would say, as a seedling. So now we'll see where it goes from here, going into a beautiful tree.
Well, thanks, Miss Pambana. And I'll say humbly that it is all built on the shoulders of all the stuff that y'all have been doing for the last 20 plus years in community. I'll pass it to Jim.
Thanks. So for me in 2023, so much of what I've been able to see, not being a member of the advisory committee, but in supervising the students who worked with the CLT both in spring of 2023 and in the fall of 2023, is just seeing the amazing growth, especially, just to be able to celebrate and see the massive progress coming out of the fact of getting us tremendous financial support. That again, those first 4 or 5 years made possible. I think the CLT funding was announced in 2022, but it really started to come in to Kepra in 2023. And that really allowed your planning to proceed with a great deal of confidence. I would hear exciting things about visits to the West Coast, about connections with the Houston CLT, with City of Lake CLT, and and the work with Jason, just tremendous work, with Grounded Solutions and Burlington Associates, just moving forward. And, when my students did finish up in early December, I was able to work last month and even this week in seeing, some actual formal steps for the land trust to move forward in its work. So that's just been tremendously exciting.
Thank you, Jim. And thanks for all your support. Yeah, Jim and his students. So Jim is with the Notre Dame Community Development Law Clinic, and he has students every semester that he has work on Kepra's creative projects, just to say the least. So I'll just add in some of my reflections from last year. I mean, it was such a journey, and I would just again, just so much gratitude to y'all, and kind of this experience in developing my own leadership and in developing our community's leadership. And again, it definitely hasn't been a straight line. Like, it has been lessons and learning all the time. So I think if I had to put it into just a couple words, one is the learning. So just taking enough time to slow down and talk to people, and really just so many conversations, dozens and dozens of lunches, a bunch of trips to different places, bunches of Zoom calls with Ashley Allen at Houston CLT, with City of Lakes, visiting Minneapolis. We took a big road trip, and that was the second word, which is team, our team. So we built a really strong team that brings so much skills and such a diversity of experiences that I think really helped us get out of it being an Alvin project to, okay, Alvin is just helping support in various pieces. So for me, that's really been great and also challenging, because I'm a perfectionist, and I have issue trying to control and make sure it's right. And so that's been great, and I really appreciate y'all's patience and contributions to help make it happen. So the team, the learning, so just from all the different places we visited and people we've talked to, and just trying to deeper understanding of really the issue around housing is fundamentally a deeper societal issue that's really tied to the great inequality in our really global economic system, also in the United States system, which is really foundationally based off of a racial caste system and very intentional policies that were racially discriminatory, particularly around housing. Housing is one of the after the formal institution of slavery, the ownership of property became a proxy for who could gain wealth and whose wealth was extracted from them. So reading books like Evicted by Matthew Desmond, Born in Blackness by Howard French, and just a bunch of reading and the work around housing, just understanding that's a much deeper issue, that in order to fix, we're not going to be able to fix that deeper issue. Not really, not unless there's some serious societal transformations, and really turning our efforts to creating a tool that is rooted in our own community, that we have control over and that we have agency to do that can help provide housing for folks in our community as kind of a foundational, if you do like, just like Kepra has provided housing to young people and team members of Kepra. And even like myself, I lived in Kepra's housing for 4 or 5 years until a house across the street came up for sale that I was able to buy. But really that idea of if people can have housing and community where we're supporting each other and sharing resources, then that fundamentally like can really allow people to make a contribution rather than having to work 2 or 3 jobs where people are making not like very low hourly, like lower hourly wages. People can contribute to their families and do stuff in community. So, so we said learning, team, relationships, and also like more lately trying to slow down instead of, because it's tempting when you learn new stuff all the time to say, oh, we need to do this other thing. This like changes everything. Like this is what we should be doing. So it's been kind of like moving from those big shifts of learning and then being excited and changing and adapting our strategy to one of, okay, let's tweak it. Hey, we have a good enough understanding and an idea of a model that will work and that we can try. Can we try and keep it simple and see what we can learn from that and then tweak it as we go rather than making big shifts left and right? So yeah, and I think, and the other piece has been with Jim's help in navigating, okay, how do we, as Kepra, support the creation of this community institution that really lives beyond Kepra Institute? So, I mean, Kepra has like helped to bring it out of the ground and hopes that the values around like relationship building and community leadership can be like continued through this organization, and just navigating, creating a new organization where Kepler will have some influence and like helping to get it started, but to also let go of that this really is going to be a community governed institution that will stand on its own, that we'll have a part in, but that really is up to the community to support and to take to the next level. So those are my reflections. And there was just like 1,000 more details and stories that we won't go into, but yeah, and we also had Jesse put in the comments. I remember when I first saw the original city map from the 1920s, which said that the neighborhood I've been living in for 15 years was redlined, suitable only for Negro housing. Still to this day, the 46218 has the lowest life expectancy in central Indiana, never redressed injustices. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jesse. So I'll open it up, any questions or specifics, and we can start talking about next year in the last 15 minutes we got.
We're going to talk about next year or 2024?
Sorry, 2024. This year was next year. Thanks, Ms. Pombana.
So Alvin, in the Crown Hill community, one of the biggest concerns in conjunction with affordable housing is home repairs for persons who live in the community already.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be able to purchase the home through the CTL because they already own the home or their family already owns the home. But for those who want to age in place, what can they look forward to with the program such as the CELT?
Thanks, Anita. Great question. So this is a model that we've talked about a lot, that the City of Lakes in Minneapolis has used. Again, this is not necessarily what we're planning to launch with our pilot coming up with the Homebuyer Choice Program, but some CLTs have worked with existing homeowners, particularly ones that are at risk of losing their home to either tax, like back taxes, or they haven't been able to maintain it and are getting code violations, and those fines rack up and then add to the tax bill, and then people eventually lose their houses, ones that they owned outright, over like $10,000 or $20,000 in back property taxes. so what some CLTs like City Lakes have done is they did, it's called Project Sustained Legacy, where again, it was very case by case basis of working with homeowners who came to the CLT saying that they wanted assistance, they wanted to stay in their home but couldn't afford to do so. And that could either be because they were living on fixed incomes, they're in aging homes that are like 100+ years old, as we all know in our neighborhoods, a lot of houses like that that need a lot of work, and TLC especially, like when the roof goes bad and like all these other kind of really major maintenance issues. So uh, I would say we're down to have that conversation. And please, if you have any particular folks, we would love to talk. Though right now, what we're looking at is launching with a home buyer choice type program for folks who are new to buying it. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't still have those conversations. And if there is a fit, discuss about, hey, can the CLT be of assistance to this person? I mean, we are also cautious because we don't want it to appear to be predatory as well, because if people feel like they don't have another choice, that it might feel like they're kind of like forced into it, even though it, like, in theory, is helping them stay in their home and maintain it. So I think it'll take some time and relationship building and practice to figure out where that balance is in terms of assisting people who are homeowners. But I'd say that is a conversation that we're down to have and start to discuss. Did that answer your question, Danita?
Yes, it did. And I thank you very much because you mentioned about the housing not being up to code, but not only
Yes.
are people being forced out of their homes because of code violations, they're
Yeah.
also being forced out because the increase in property taxes.
Yeah.
And of course, you probably know people are knocking on the doors and calling
Yeah.
residents every single day,
Yeah.
offering them more money than they've ever seen in a lifetime at one time, but it's
Right.
not enough
Yeah.
to sustain or purchase another home. So this would be a great avenue for those who want to stay in the areas. So I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Thanks, Danita. Okay, any other questions before then we're starting to go into to this year, not next year, this year, and our plans and what we're thinking. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up. So I will just say, from the CLT organizing perspective, we did, as Jim said, file the articles of incorporation, and we actually adopted this morning the bylaws. So we have established the organization. We're looking at filing the federal 501c3 paperwork in the next couple weeks. That'll make it like federally official. And again, the wait time for that probably is like 7 or 8 months. So that's why we're getting it in early, so that later in this year we'll have federal tax exempt status. And part of that, the CLT is going to be a membership organization. So we hope that you all will want to become members, and we'll send information as that we get closer to that. And really, a community land trust, along with permanent affordability, another part of that is the community control of the organization and community governance. So the board is going to be what's called the tripartite board, which means 3-part board. One part of it's going to be lessee owners. So people who live in the CLT will make up a third of the people on the board. Another third will be made up of general members who are elected at the annual meeting. So if you all become general members, then you could nominate yourself or nominate each other to run for the board. One thing that we've added for a requirement for general members who are on the board is that they are the residents of Marion County and have household incomes below 80% of the median income, median area median income, AMI. And that mainly is so that the general members, at least represent the interests of lower income homeowners, which is really who the CLT is meant to serve and organize. And then the other third will be public representatives, including one, and that's 5 seats, one of which KEPRA will nominate kind of ongoing as its role as the founding organization. The other 4 will be nominated by the board and elected by the whole membership body at the annual meeting. So look for that in June. So I think we're going to probably do that first election and membership meeting in like June 1st, tentatively. And then I will pass it. Stephanie, do you want to speak a little to the Homebuyer Choice Program that we are putting together and the work you're doing with Jeff Washburn?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Jeff Washburn, for those of you who don't know, is a consultant that we're working with. He was the executive director at the City of Lake CLT in Minneapolis for over 20 years and was with that program really from the start. So saw the initial challenges of getting things up and running, but really neat about Minneapolis is they're now to a point where the ongoing affordability is a requirement for all affordable housing projects to go through. So whether it's the official CLT or another kind of similar program, everything going through Minneapolis has to have that component, which is really exciting and something we'd love to replicate here in Indy. So with all of Jeff's awesome experience and really understanding the nitty gritty of all the processes and procedures, he's laying out kind of a buyer process for us. And I'm going to compare that to some information we've gotten from Houston Community Land Trust, who we've partnered closely with, and kind of consider Ashley Allen, their director, to be our big sister in this adventure. She's fantastic as well. And just kind of using that as a framework for us to really put those nuts and bolts together for this program. So at a very high level, for those of you that don't know, with the Homebuyer Choice Program, essentially a family that is between a 30 and 60% area median income, which is our target population, as Alvin was saying, would get qualified through our program. And we would say, okay, go. Here's kind of your max home price. This is what we're able to subsidize to make it affordable for you. Find a home on the market that will meet that kind of budget, but be in an area that you want to live, the type of home that you need for your family. So in a very simplistic view, that's what that could look like. You know, we're still making some decisions and having conversations with our board and other stakeholders about the condition of the home. Does it need to already be in great condition? And what does that actually look like? Those are important questions that we're evaluating. There's some consideration of working with some established partners on new homes that are already potentially have some subsidy with them, or we would further subsidize that to get it to the population we're hoping to serve and keep it permanently affordable. So there's a few different routes that we could go, or a combination thereof. I'm excited to explore some of those options further, but anything else to add in, Alvin?
No, thanks, Stephanie. That's great. And I would just say that the target that we're looking at right now, and again, we're still putting it together, and we'll send out more details for upcoming months as we put it together to get more feedback. But we're really looking at under 60% of the area median income. And for those of you who are not familiar, for a single person, that's about $40,000 a year. So that would be the maximum income people could make in order to qualify to be a CLT resident. And again, we might make some changes to that, but that's kind of our intent, is that particularly those are the folks who are really right now locked into renting. So people who make like less than 60% might have a challenge to become a homeowner. And we're looking at the CLT as a way for people to attain home ownership who couldn't do it with the regular market. Because if people can do it with the regular market, they'll build more equity, and the more power to them. And the kind of the role that we see the CLT as playing is to be able to provide that opportunity for folks who are really locked out of the market, while also making sure that opportunity in that house is passed on to another, should that family choose to sell or move, and a lot of times people in community land trusts after 10 years or so might sell and move into a market rate house that better fits their needs, or if they want to build more equity. But that's kind of the idea of us, is that we want to be able to provide that opportunity to people who couldn't normally, who would be stuck renting, so that they can start to build equity, as well as have stability of a payment. Because rents, as we know, have been going, it's out of our control, out of the tenant's control, how much the rent goes up every year. It could be 100, it could be 200 a year. And then, it's hard to have stability that way. And that's the advantage of a mortgage payment that, if it's a fixed interest rate, doesn't change over time except for the property taxes and insurance. So. Yeah, any questions or thoughts or feedback from the crew?
If I can just put a little plug in,
Yeah.
you may see some updates coming out in the next month or so related to some legislative efforts that are going through. Just in the skinny version of that is that with the way that laws currently are, the CLT homeowners would get taxed at the market value at the home, not the subsidized price. And that could be a very big difference in what they're paying in their taxes and make it unaffordable for them. So there has been a bill filed in the House and in the Senate to legislate that, so that that's fair for them, because they're not also getting they're not able to sell the house for the market rate. They're not getting that benefit when they were to go to sell. So that's not fair for them. So this is a short legislative cycle. I'm learning lots that, this could be a 5 to 7 year process before something actually happens here. But as we have some more calls to action, you may see some things come through the Home for All Coalition email of some actions that you can take to encourage your legislators to pursue this issue and help this to be more successful for our homeowners in keeping them in an affordable situation. So just wanted to tee that up. The legislative cycle is kicking off. The bills were just filed in the last week. It's going to be very short. So you may see just a few things coming through, and a few minutes to call or email could help that maybe get to that next level. So thank you.
Stephanie, with the homebuyer choice, I see a lot. I show a lot of houses and stuff, and there's a lot of flips out there. Buyers aren't necessarily going to be the most sophisticated, so you're going to have a lot of houses that look pretty that people may want to buy, but like I had one the other day that once we got into there's major foundation issues like that the average buyer just won't see. How will we handle that as a CLT, as far as like making sure that house is a good investment and won't end up costing them a lot more down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we're definitely cognizant of, because we don't want somebody to get into a situation like that. And not only does it hurt the homeowner, but then it becomes a poor investment for the CLT for that next homeowner afterwards. So it's an ongoing challenge. There's a few different ways that we could address that. One would be only working with new builds, so that hopefully they don't have some of those issues, and working with some partners there is one avenue. Another would be mimicking what Houston CLT does, where they have very stringent criteria as to the homes that can become part of the CLT. And that comes after a full inspection as well in that process, to make sure that, as we know, I mean, we may not be able to see what's in the walls, but we can do a scope of the sewer line and do some other things to be as smart as possible. So there's some different strategies that we can employ that we're further looking into, but don't have an answer to that quite yet, but are definitely cognizant of it and are trying to mitigate that to the best of our ability.
And if we're putting home dollars into it, will they need to meet minimum rehab standards for the city?
Not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully get there. Yeah, and also one other thing on repair piece, we have been playing around with the idea of including a repair reserve funds as a monthly. That's what Houston does, is they have to put $50, all the homeowners put $50 in a month that goes into a savings account that stays with the home. So if like 10 years later, like they need a new roof, which is like $10,000, ideally that money would be there for them to withdraw to do certain maintenance things. Not necessarily rehab the kitchen or renovate the kitchen, but things like the exterior maintenance that really protects the structure of the home. Things like siding and roofs and other things.
And that subsidy stays with the home. So if the home buyer sells in 7 years and didn't use that, there'd be some money accrued as those expenditures come through.
Any other thoughts? We're at 7:02, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time tonight. So we'll open it up. Any final thoughts or questions?
No final questions, but just to comment and say, this is going to be a great 2024 for the CLT. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Appreciate you. With your help, of course.
I just wanted to say it was good meeting everybody, and I look forward to working with you guys forward on any video projects or anything related to CLT, because I'm definitely interested in looking to help you guys grow with it.
Thanks, Shane. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. Have a great evening, and we'll hopefully see you next month with more exciting news. Thanks, y'all. Take care.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.